Odyssey now has hundreds of new exclusive music stations for you to discover your new summer soundtrack.
Get moving with worthy workouts for a cardio sesh fueled by today's top artists.
Hanging with your crew? Throw it back with Picnic Party for old school jams for your cookout.
Or sail away with Odyssey's new yacht rock station, Jugger Yacht.
There are hundreds of new exclusive stations to check out today.
For summer barbecues,
road trips,
or relaxing poolside.
For every mood, every interest, every passion. By Odyssey.
Why does quicksand work so slowly? Question everything. They did. It's how they created the all-new Hyundai Tucson with available innovations like a huge 10.25-inch infotainment screen and digital key technology, allowing you to use your smartphone as a spare key. And you always get Hyundai's complimentary maintenance for 3 years or 36,000 miles. Test drive the 2022 Hyundai Tucson at your nearest Hyundai dealer or learn more at HyundaiUSA.com. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details. Tell Alexa to open Hyundai Driver. Why does quicksand work so slowly? Question everything. They did. It's how they created the all-new Hyundai Tucson with available innovations like a huge 10.25-inch infotainment screen and digital key technology, allowing you to use your smartphone as a spare key. And you always get Hyundai's complimentary maintenance for 3 years or 36,000 miles. Test drive the 2022 Hyundai Tucson at your nearest Hyundai dealer or learn more at HyundaiUSA.com. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details. Tell Alexa to open Hyundai Driver.
And on the line is Odyssey NBA insider Ryan McDonough. Insider calls are brought to you by Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Let's make them the Giant Interview.
Now, it's the Giant Interview, presented by A-Team Roofing. Online at ateamroofers.com. The A-Team Roofing Giant Interview on 92.9's Jason and John Show.
Ryan, pleasure to have you, brother. And I've got to ask you, you're so great for us at breaking this thing down from a front office standpoint. That's why it's a pleasure anytime we get to pick your brain. But I've got to ask you from the human side, what's it like watching this Phoenix team in the finals on the cusp, perhaps, of winning the franchise's first title, with you having had such a hand in building it, right? It's got to be a little bit more personal than just that typical relationship. What's it like watching them?
Hey, Jason, always great to be on with you.
Pleasure.
It's been really enjoyable, to be honest with you. I was lucky enough to be in the Celtics front office in 2008 when we won the NBA title, and then in 2010 we got back to the finals and lost to the Lakers in a hard-fought 7-game series when Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol and those guys got us in a memorable Game 7. But I bring that up because it's always special when you're with a franchise in any role and they get on the biggest stage and the guys start to perform. So there are only 3 players left on the roster from when I was there, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Mikal Bridges.
Yep.
I have relationships with those 3 guys, especially Devin Booker. We had him the longest. So it's always enjoyable to watch those guys play and thrive. And I've been really impressed, Jason, as far as how those guys have stepped up on the biggest stage. Keep in mind, it's the first playoff appearance, never mind the finals, the first time those guys are in the playoffs,
right,
and they're all thriving in this environment.
So with Devin Booker, who you got at 13, at pick number 13 back in 2015, is this what you envisioned? I mean, you couldn't, to be honest with, could you have a guy who at this point in his career now, and like you said, first time even in the playoffs, he's going 1 of 8 from 3 last night and still finding a way to score 27 points. The player that he's become, I know you hoped it when you take him number 13 in 2015, but did you imagine it would get this good for him?
I don't think so, especially not as quickly as he did. And even going back a few years when the team was struggling, we're losing a lot of games, going through a full-blown and pretty aggressive rebuild. Devin always rose to the occasion. And frankly, Jason, he gave us a reason to lean into the rebuild. I think in the NBA, it's always important to build around your best player.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if your best player is 18 years old or 19 years old, then you better find some guys who are good enough to go around him and complement him. And that's what we did in Phoenix. And, since I've departed the franchise, they've done a great job continuing to build on that. But when he was coming off the bench at Kentucky, we saw the shooting in the individual workouts in the pre-draft process. We saw more the playmaking and the feel for the game and competitiveness. So when he was there at 13 and still on the board, it was a no-brainer for us. But I think we'd be lying if we said we thought he'd be setting NBA scoring records and being one of the best players on a team that looks like it may be headed into their first championship in franchise history.
I don't think I expected this level of toughness either, Ryan. Seeing him come out of Kentucky, you see a guy that you'd read a little bit of the history. Don't know him nearly as well as you do, but you'd read a little bit of the history, and you wonder, okay, is he just going to be a scorer? Is he going to do everything? Is he going to set screens? And I'll tell you what, I mean, he breaks his nose with Patrick Beverly there, and he's still the guy setting the screens and finding other ways. I've been so impressed by his toughness and maturity level. I wonder, Ryan, what you think on this. How much has Chris Paul helped that? In terms of Booker was already good last year in the bubble. They're going undefeated down there, and you could tell he was turning a corner in terms of maturity level. But how much has having Chris Paul next to him, who he's calling the greatest leader to play the game, how much has that helped Devin Booker become this player, having that sort of veteran presence there?
Yeah, I think it's helped a significant amount. And Booker's always been individually brilliant, but the trouble in the past, even last year when they had Ricky Rubio, who's a solid starting point guard, his teams could load up on him and take him away. Now with Devin Booker and Chris Paul in the backcourt, that's as good as any in the NBA. And you have two brilliant guards who can do everything. They can shoot, they can score, they can make plays for others. So it's really hard to take all that away. Very few teams, if any, Jason, have two perimeter defenders in the backcourt who are good enough to even slow those guys down. So you're always at a disadvantage defensively, and I think the Suns really exploited that last night with how they got the switches. Whenever they got Brook Lopez or even off the bench, Bobby Portis switched on Paul or Booker, they took advantage of it. So I think Chris Paul was the right guy for this team at the right time. Their young players are looking to be led, and as Booker mentioned, they have a great leader on the court in Chris Paul, and they also have a great leader in the locker room in Monty Williams.
We're talking to Odyssey NBA insider Ryan McDonough. Can catch him again tonight on Odyssey Inside the Finals. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. right here on 92.9 FM ESPN. Like we said, always appreciative for any chance we get to pick his brain. All right, Chris Paul, does this look like the makings or certainly the beginning of what feels like a Finals MVP campaign? Had 32 last night, seemed to be in total control. You talked about it. Milwaukee just had no answers for the both of them. What do you think when this thing's all said and done? Is Chris Paul hoisting a Finals MVP trophy to go with the overall trophy?
Well, he's been brilliant, not only last night in Game 1, but also in Game 6 against the Clippers, the closeout game. What he's done as far as the scoring in particular, I think he had 39 against the Clippers in Game 6 to win the Western Conference, and then 32 last night. As you know, Jason, usually he's not that aggressive as far as looking for his own shot and trying to score. He facilitates and distributes, and I think it's easy to forget that he got off to a little bit of a slow start last night. He wasn't great in the first quarter. He kind of eased into the game and then really exploded as the game went on. So I think he's the leader in the clubhouse for the MVP. But for me, there are three candidates. Chris, I think will be the most likely candidate to win it and the leader of the team, and he'll certainly win the media vote and the popular vote because of his story and his path to get there.
Right.
But Devin Booker, what he did last night, as you mentioned, his three ball wasn't falling, but he got to the free throw line. He made all 10 of his free throws. Also had 6 assists, 3 steals, and then DeAndre Ayton, who's been dominant not only in this first game of the finals, but throughout the playoffs, really on both ends of the court. Jason, last night, they were joking after the game that Chris Paul stole that final rebound. He would have had 22 points and 20 rebounds that he gobbled up that last one. What he's doing, especially at 22 years old, is pretty historic, and I'm really enjoying watching that young man thrive on the biggest stage. And so I think if the Suns do win the title, Paul will probably win it, but I imagine people look at Booker and then also Ayton's impact on both ends of the court and also on the backboards.
If Chris Paul wins a title in Phoenix, Ryan, do you think it makes it more likely that he looks to work out something long term at some point? Do you think he just picks up that $44 million option next season that keeps those options open for 22-23? What do you think in terms of impact on if he wins, impact on his future with Phoenix? What do you think?
I think the Suns are the leader in the clubhouse and probably a pretty strong lead at this point, given how well Chris has fit in here and meshed with Monty Williams and Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton on the court. Now, that being said, one of the things to keep in mind, Jason, with Chris is he's also president of the Players Association.
Yes, sir.
So I've heard that he is understandably concerned about how it looks optically as far as taking less or giving a team discount or whatever. As one of the leaders or the leader of the Players Association, he doesn't want to set that standard. So the Suns were going to have to pay up, but I think they're a strong leader in the clubhouse. Keep in mind his family's still in Los Angeles. That's an hour or so flight from here in Phoenix, and what's not to like as far as how he's fit on and off the court and how the sitting community has really embraced him. If in year one he leads the team to a championship and he's Finals MVP, Jason, I think the grass isn't always greener. I think it's a pretty good setup, especially with the age of Booker, Ayton, Bridges, and the Suns' young core playing around Chris. If they win it this year, he probably realize they have a good chance to repeat, or this should be a good team for a number of years to come.
What's the adjustment for the Bucks, Ryan? What's the way that you get back into this thing and not just get back into it, but seize momentum? I mean, is it going to take Is it going to take Chris Paul and Devin Booker not playing well, or is there an adjustment for Budenholzer that you think maybe comes back and you can even this thing up?
Yeah, they have to keep Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis off of those guards. I thought way too many times last night those guys got switched defensively and were on an island against Paul and Booker. And, as we discussed, Jason, those guys are assassins. I mean, you can't guard them one-on-one really with anybody, but especially with a big, even a talented big like Brook Lopez, who's huge but is a little bit slower-footed. Bobby Portis doesn't move his feet great defensively. And it seems like Phoenix, with their ball movement, player movement, which is excellent, they got those matchups kind of whenever they wanted, and we saw the results. So it'd be interesting to see what Mike Budenholzer and his staff do. I'm guessing there'll be more fighting over the screen. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised, Jason, if you see Milwaukee's perimeter players get some defensive fouls trying to fight over screens, get through screens, and not just automatically switch or have an easy switch that allows Phoenix to isolate their star guards against the defensive bigs of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Is Budenholzer safe at this point, you think, Ryan? Or is there a scenario where they get swept and they decide to move on from him? Do you think getting past the Nets and getting into and the Hawks obviously getting into these finals is enough for him to keep the job, or are things still open?
I'll say this, Jason, after close to 20 years associated with the NBA, nothing surprises me anymore. I guess that it's a little bit puzzling that Mike D'Antoni was maybe the best coach in the league or second best coach in the league. His team set the second best record in the league in Houston. Looks like he's going to go a second year in a row without getting a head coaching job. Terry Stotts, who I think his team had the longest playoff streak in the league in Portland, is going to not have a head coaching job next year. That's the way it looks right now. So I bring that up, Jason, because nothing surprises me. So I think certainly, anytime you're a conference champion, the franchise hasn't been to the finals in 47 years, hasn't won a title in 50 years. You would think that's good enough, especially with the injuries to Giannis, and keep in mind Dante DiVincenzo's out as well. But again, nothing surprises me. So I hope so. It would be awful unfair if a guy got to the team at this point and then against, in my opinion, a superior opponent lost his job because they couldn't beat that better team. But as I said, I've been doing this long enough that nothing really shocks me anymore, especially when it comes to front office and coaching changes.
I got to ask you this. I know it feels like they've got a coach on the floor in Chris Paul, but how impressed have you been with the job that Monty Williams has done? It feels like his fingerprints are all over this team.
He's done an incredible job. Yeah, and really noticed a shift last year starting in the Orlando bubble.
Yep.
They went 8-0. They just missed the playoffs. But he's been very open and honest, especially here locally, Jason, about it, that when he was in New Orleans as a young coach, he was probably too stubborn, too hard-headed, held the reins a little bit too tight, and he's learned, as I think which we all do. You grow up and you mellow and mature, and he's learned to relax a little bit. And I think a lot of that's Monty's personality. He's humble. He defers to the players. I think it certainly helps that he has two great guards, two great leaders on the floor in Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Basically what he said after the game last night was they asked him when Chris Paul gets rolling, what do you do? He said, I told the guys to space the floor and stay out of his way. As you know, Jason, a lot of coaches wouldn't say that. They try to make it more about them and take the credit. That's not Monty Williams. That's not how he's wired. He always gives the credit to the players, and this team really plays hard for him, not just in the playoffs, but consistently night in and night out throughout the course of the regular season as well.
And then last thing, because you know him so well, I want to ask you about it. You touched on how well he's played. DeAndre Ayton, what's been the key for you, Ryan, in watching him and knowing him as well as you do in terms of this emergence? I know I was talking earlier that obviously Chris has made the game easier, that's clear, but a lot of this clearly on him as well. What's been the key for you in terms of what we're watching from this young big DeAndre Ayton?
Yeah, I think he's simplified his game, Jason, and that may sound a little counterintuitive, but when you have a talented young player like DeAndre Ayton, who's 7'1", 265 pounds, 7'6" wingspan, can jump out of the gym and do everything you'd want physically, I think the temptation, especially early on, is to try to do everything with him. What Phoenix has done is they've really simplified his role. He's become an excellent screener. He's one of the best roll men in the league, given his speed and his size as a lob target. He's got good hands. And then in transition, the finish he had last night, going to his left hand, the 7'1" guy, around a defender in the break. He's finished well that way. So I just think simplifying it. Offensively, the talent's always been there. He's not taking as many, bad shots, 18-foot fadeaways and things like that. He's become extremely efficient. And then defensively, Jason, just his recognition, his ability to pick up patterns, to read rotations, to be, go from I thought really struggled defensively as a rookie to now an elite defender in terms of the way he moves his feet, protects the rim, and then finishes with a rebound. I'm really excited for the young man. I'm happy to see it, and it's important to keep in mind that he's just 22 years old, doing all this at a historic level on the biggest stage.
No, it's been fun to watch it all sort of come together and really so quickly. It's been fun to watch this thing happen for the Phoenix Suns. Certainly feels like they're in the driver's seat. Ryan, it's always a pleasure, sir, getting to talk to you, man. Really appreciate your time.
Hey, Jason, always great to be on with you. And before I run, congratulations to John. I heard the great news, so I know he's not with us today, but congrats to him as well.
He's taking a month off from paternity leave, Ryan, like 3 months after having the kid. Is that okay? A month off?
Hey, if I can find a way to do it, I will. No offense to you, Jason, but I got two. I think they're 4 and 2. They might be a little too old for that.
Odyssey will give it to you, Ryan. Odyssey will give it to you.
There you go,
management is said.
He's enjoying
Have a
it.
child, yeah.
Ryan, appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Take care, brother. That was Odyssey NBA insider Ryan McDonough. Insider Calls brought to you by Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. We know life's busy. So come to Shell to fill up, save up, and snack up to make the most of the stop you need to make.
I'm Tracy Clayton.
And I'm Josh Gwynn, and we're the hosts of Back Issue.
We're back with Season 2.
You can remember the name of our show, Back Issue, because we're back for Season 2.
And we have issues?
Not wrong. We're going to revisit moments in pop culture we all think we remember and learn what they can teach us about where we are now.
We're going to talk about Whitney Houston, food you used to love, your favorite and forgotten singers of the 90s and the 2000s, and more.
So join Tracy and I with Back Issue Season 2. Listen on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Why does quicksand work so slowly? Question everything. We did. It's how we created the all-new Hyundai Tucson with available innovations like a huge 10.25-inch infotainment screen and digital key technology. And you always get Hyundai's complimentary maintenance for 3 years or 36,000 miles. Test drive the 2022 Hyundai Tucson at your nearest Hyundai dealer or learn more at HyundaiUSA.com. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.